Hello and welcome to this advanced mandolin lesson in how to play the Banks of the Ohio in the key of F, and more specifically we're going to look at David Grisman's version of the Banks of the Ohio, taken from the really nice Tony Rice recording from 1977, which I have linked below. The mandolin does the introduction, it's a really nice arrangement, so hopefully at the end of the lesson you'll have something that sounds a bit like this. Before we start, I should mention that everything I talk about in the next 10 minutes or so is included in a free PDF guide below. All you need to do is click the link in the description and you can have all the tab and music in front of you rather than learning everything by ear. So even though I'm treating you as an advanced player, I do think it's worth just sort of checking we're all working off the same hymn sheet and all playing the same core melody in the key of F. So without further ado, I'm just going to stick the metronome on at about 150 and we'll quickly play once through the melody so we all know the same starting point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1, 2. So now we're going to go through David Grisman's version of that in 4 different phrases. It's a sort of a 16-bar tune, so we're going to break it down into 4 4-bar phrases, and sort of with each one there's something different, something an idea we can use, something we can steal for our own playing, and that's the whole idea of this exercise is the working out someone's solo, trying to play it, stealing the odd idea, getting it wrong in the process, and through that process you quite often end up with your own style, own unique style. I certainly did it in my early 20s. I had some spare time, so I transcribed the whole of Chris Thiley's Not All Who Wander Are Lost album. Couldn't play it, but in the process of not being able to play it, learnt loads about the mandolin and stuff I can do. So this is hopefully an insight into the kind of stuff you should be doing as an advanced player with other mandolin players' solos. So phrase 1. So a few things to note there. This opening phrase, this opening pickup, with a double stop, index and middle. This is a wonderful little bluegrass opening. So first thing I would do is remember that and steal it. You know, if you're playing in the key of G, so knock it up a tone. Or A. Or A's down here. Or D. Just so many. There's D. B. So that is such a useful phrase to kick off any bluegrass solo in any key. So that's the first thing you should steal from that phrase. The second of all is it's always very interesting how much David Grisman tremolos everything. If it was me, I would only tremolo the long notes, but he tremolos, which is an interesting way of playing it, and I quite like it. So let's try that phrase together a few times. 3, 4, 1. Let's try it again. 3, 4, 1. Phrase 2, you're kind of in the same place. The 2 interesting things about that. So first of all, the double stop over a C7. So our melody note is this B flat here. That's the melody note. So if you were constructing a normal C7 double stop, if you're playing the B flat, you have C, E, and G as well from the C7 chord, because the 7th is being played. You would normally add the double stop as C, E, or G. But David Grisman adds a D. And I think he's done it for two reasons. First of all, harmonically, it sounds really interesting. You end up with sort of a C7 add 9. It's kind of that sound. Sounds like it wants to resolve somewhere, which is really nice. It wants to resolve back to the F. So there's that element. And then there's also the kind of you've got two melody lines going up the mandolin. So your lower one is there, and then your higher one. Some movement in the double stop. So that's really interesting. So as an advanced player, once you know the fundamentals of double stops, which are, you know, your arpeggio notes, you can then start to break them in certain occasions, which will add a bit of spice to any solo. You obviously don't want to do it all the time, because then people just think you don't know what you're doing, but occasionally you can throw in a note that you wouldn't normally do and it has a massive effect. And then the second half of this phrase, a nice sort of little bluesy number to get us back to our home note of F. Now, what I think is interesting about this is how David Grisman uses his fingers. So your index finger is rooted on 3. So your ring would do 7. And you could... Convention would say that the ring finger also would have to cover 6. But that's quite messy, so I think what's happening is David Grisman is getting his middle finger to reach out and help out there on the 6th fret. Which is a really good little phrase. I love that phrase. And again, you could steal that for... Again, it's a closed phrase, no open string, so you could steal that, move it anywhere on the fretboard. So lots of little phrases you can steal in this tune. So let's just try that together after 2. 1, 2. 3, 4, 1, 2. And again, 1, 2. 4, 1, 2. Lovely phrase. And then phrase 3. So a nice little F arpeggio to start us off. So two interesting things again. Common theme here, but kind of the same one. So rather than just going straight onto the double stop, it's a very common mandolin thing to slide in from notes below it. And you could pick random notes. You could sort of, so if you're on a 5 and 8, you could just go like a chromatic. But what most people do is a diatonic resolution. So you go to the diatonic note in the scale before it. So if your double stop is 5, the note in the scale before it is the 3, not the 4. So your index finger's going 3 to 5, but your ring finger, which ends up on 8, is going from 7. So that's the resolution. And it's the same. Because if you did... That kind of... It's a bit train noisy, that. We want a bit more diatonic. So... Which is a difficult skill because you've got your ring finger resolving 1 fret and your index finger resolving 2 frets. Let's have a run through it a few times around. This will be after 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. So again, 3, 4, 1. And we come to phrase 4, my favourite one of the whole tune, if I just play it. So my favourite thing about this is it's all closed, no open strings. So you could steal that, you could shift it up a tone, you get an ending phrase in G. So you start in here, there's your peak, and you're ending up down on an F. So if we modulate it up a tone, it's an ending phrase in G. Or you could start it a string higher, so it's like in D. Or in C. And in working out this tune, I can promise you, fellow mandolin player, I will be stealing that phrase for some of my solos because it is so much fun to play. So if we go back to F, if I just do it, so your little finger is reaching that high F. That slide with your middle finger. And your first finger doing a lot of work there. 1, 2, 3. Again, 1, 2, 3. So to finish this lesson, we're going to play that round. I'll sort of overdub the guitar so you can hear it in context. For advanced players, I highly suggest that you would now maybe try and do your own David Grisman inspired version. So maybe you wouldn't do the same double stops. Maybe you would do some slightly different phrases in there. It's the best exercise you can do is sort of steal ideas and then filter it through your own sort of likes and dislikes. And also maybe try the whole solo in a different key. If you have the same level of geekness I do, you know, you could do the whole thing in G. You could do the whole solo shifted up to G. You could try it in C. It's really interesting what you can learn from learning a sort of one of the best players' solos. So I shall shut up and we shall play it round, and this will be after 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One, two, three, four, one. So as I explained earlier, you have plenty of homework to be getting on with. Take that solo wherever you want, into whatever key you want, into whatever style you want, and try it on someone else's solo. Try and learn a David Grisman solo for one of the other tracks on Tony Rice's album. It's all interesting stuff. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. Please hit subscribe while you're here, and all previous free lessons are available over at mandomike.com.